there was like another benefit of doing something like it's kind of like as big as that, and then meeting someone, is that I thought, this is a really good story. I really am going to do like extra to make this work out. Like it provided an extra incentive.
I see. You wouldn't have worked as hard if you didn't have to make it up.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case.
I see.
Like there were like even when we were together, like she lived in Santa Barbara and I lived here, and so in no way is that a long distance relationship, but it's long enough.
Yeah.
And I remember like several, and I remember being in an argument about several times. I'm like, don't throw in the towel. I'm like, this is just too great of a story. So
it's like you were invested.
Yeah, I was like invested. That's exactly how I put it. I felt like I was invested.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm super happy it worked out. I'm like, that's such an understatement.
How long have you guys been together? 15 years? How long ago was this?
Guys, so it was 2008 when this show happened.
12 years.
Yeah, we got married in 2010.
Wow.
I feel like it was really on this call when I received kind of like, hey, dude, you've been caught with the wrong information. That I was like, go big, or you can just quietly kind of like put this to rest, or you can go big with all of your decisions. And this one moment, I'm so grateful I went big with all of these decisions. Like I'm happy that it was as dramatic as it was, and it's never fun to like let people down, and there was that, and I had to like get through that. Yeah, it was all worked out.
I'm Dr. Larry Burchett, and as I see every day in the ER, life can change in a moment. Here on the show, we tell the stories that matter most, after which we are never the same. Oh, we got a guest for you today. Tyler
Ramsey.
Tyler Ramsey.
Nice to see you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, so happy to be here.
Highly recommended from Kai Brown.
Kai Brown, that's right.
He might as well be like my publicist for the show. Great guest.
He gets the word out.
He does.
He and our other mutual friend that we've discussed, Trek, I feel like know everyone in LA. That's my.
Trek's episode is out this week.
I can't wait to hear it.
It's called The Legend of Trek Kelly.
Of course it is.
The Legend of Trek Thunder Kelly.
Thunder, you can't leave out the thunder.
He is thunder.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you very much for coming and doing the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. So it's okay. So
you got a moment.
I got a moment.
Should we jump in?
Yeah, I could dive right in. What's so funny? This story I've tried to tell. It's a dramatic story. It's a big part of my life, and it kind of it became something where it's like I would have friends who go, "Oh, tell this story," at like a dinner party, and be like, "I have no idea how to tell it quickly." And we kind of be put on the spot. So I love.
We've got time.
Yeah, I love being able to like flesh it out. So all right, this is the. I feel like this story happened in 2008.
A little background, a little setup. Where are you from? What was going on in your life?
No problem. I originally I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I'm from Kansas.
Fantastic. So I saw your mug. You were a happy guy going into the Super Bowl.
I'll be a happy guy, sports-wise, for a long time.
For a long time. Of course you are. Years and years and years.
Chiefs.
Yeah, of course. So I'm from Oklahoma, and I'm a professional artist. But when I moved to Los Angeles, initially, which I think was like 1996, to be honest, I sort of ran from a life on like Wall Street. I had just been offered this super killer job for Bear Stearns.
In New York?
It's like trader, yeah. Like
no
kind
offense,
of like.
But I don't see trader in you right
No one does. But there was all of high school. That's what I really had my head around. And then I spent 2 summers as an intern in New York working for Bear Stearns. Crushed it. Just crushed it.
You were good.
I mean,
being a trader.
I was good at it. I think I was just good at being an intern. I don't know that I ever would. It's like I never would have been able to emotionally handle losses. I never would have been able to, like the highs and lows would have got to me within a year. Yeah. As soon as I was responsible for anyone else's money, it would have crushed me. That type of pressure, would never have been for me. But I had 2 of these kind of wacky, like You remember like this kind of like Forrest Gump, kind of like the right place, the right time in history. Like I had this weird moment as working as an intern, where these brokers couldn't go to some kind of huge, real important meeting with CEOs of companies that were giving these speeches, and they sent me with the advice of not to ask questions, and I heard them say ask questions, and literally like. It was the kind of thing where I like didn't really know anything about what I'm talking about, but in a huge group, I was the first to raise my hand, asked this guy about like, I think it was the company Quicksilver, and I was like, well, how are you going to avoid doing what Ocean Pacific did, which is like getting real big, and anyway, I just ended up asking the only question I knew to ask. The guy stopped the whole meeting and was like, "This is the smartest guy in the room. I can't believe this is the only thing we've gathered everyone." It was just a fluke situation. And then as an intern, I got a reputation, and then was offered this job way out of my league, and like
based on that question.
Kind of.
A lot.
Kind of.
Somewhat.
No, like I just like, hey, let's send the whisk. Like all of these people sent this.
Maybe you had good instincts.
Man, I'm telling you, it was a fluke. Like it was like, and it was like, so that day.
Or maybe you didn't.
I didn't. Like that one day, and then like there's a financial thing. Like everyone kind of knows price to earnings ratio, sort of like what you learn.
P to E.
That's exactly right. See, I'm talking to a doctor. You're very familiar with it.
Not very, but I got you.
Okay, you know enough. So that's really the only thing I knew. And another, like, I should have known what to ask this guy. And I literally was like, tell me about your price to earnings ratio. Just said, tell me about at the time, I didn't even know it was something that you could just look up. And he looked at me for a second. He's like, everyone, I know what this guy's getting at. I'm going to stop you right there. I wasn't getting at anything. And then he kept pointing at me, and then later people would point at me. Like, hey, before you ask something, I know what, let me just tell everyone here what we're getting at. It was the weirdest thing in the world. So that followed me not just one summer, but 2 summers. And then I was offered a job so far out of my league. And at the time, I didn't even really accept, like I thought, hey, it's kind of well-deserved. But the day I was supposed to truly accept the job, after 2 summers, someone took me to go visit like the Viacom building in New York. It's where like MTV was like happened, and Nickelodeon, all this. And when MTV was glorious.
So you went to the Viacom. Somebody took you to the Viacom building and you saw MTV.
And I mean, this isn't my changing my life story, but this was a moment that changed my life. I looked around, and I'm like, everyone here looks so much more fun than anyone that I've been working with. All the chicks are so much hotter than any girls that I'm working with, except a few receptionists. Like, and this was like, I feel like this was still an old school time. It was like 1996.
Technically, that is old school.
So old school.
It's
but I'm like
25 years ago.
That's not even technically. This is old school.
Yeah.
And I just had this moment, and literally just raced to California. I had some money saved,
I see.
and I was gonna be just set up in New York. My parents were gonna just set me up like the biggest brat you've ever seen. And and when I changed my mind, they sold the car they had, kind of trade, like it was. I had to race out here with money in my pocket, and ended up working for MTV, and worked like I moved out here to be a screenwriter. I wrote something we optioned, didn't get made, broke my heart, and then also the process of writing a screenplay and then handing it to someone and then going, hey, will you read this? Kind of hoping maybe they like it and something happens to it. That the period of time it takes for someone to read a screenplay, to me, like, is the longest and most painful amount of time.
Where you're hanging and waiting.
Yeah,
for their
like,
reaction.
and I just get so far in my head, and just that's all of a sudden your job is to do the thing that I enjoy the least in the whole world, is to wait for people to read this thing that I'm excited about. So I kind of had this, and so I got into working in reality television. I was directing shows for MTV.
So you started working for MTV and directing reality TV for them.
Yeah, directing show. Really happy place actually. Like to be in like. I always thought that like one thing so amazing was like making nature shows. Like that would be like the job. and I like actually got a shot. I worked on Survivor for a little while, and like one kind of gig you have if you're any level of producer, from story producer on up. It's like we want as much nature as possible. So if you can get some good video of like nature, great, we want it badly.
Nature B-roll.
Like
you're just
if you get like a
randomly
snake going by, and then you can kind of pan up to the cast or something like that.
Oh, I see.
So I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, if nature, I'm like, it's the most boring thing in the world to wait for an animal to do something. It sucks. People, like on these reality shows, they'll do something right away. Right away. And I'm like, this is way better.
You don't have to wait for them like an animal.
You don't have to wait for them like an animal. And I thought, and so, okay, so I think it's like, this is also like the height of reality television, kind of like 2000. The story I'm getting towards all the way in 2010. But I started working in reality television when it sort of like blew up. And it wasn't
the Real World, Survivor.
Yeah, I worked on The Real World.
Those were the big ones.
Yeah.
I mean, The Real World, I feel like, was the real birth of reality TV.
It's like one of my first jobs was working on The Real World. Yeah,
that's
Real World Hawaii. Yeah. There was this moment where one of the crazy contestants got drunk and was drinking and driving. Yeah. And like one big moment in reality television was like kind of the production cars chasing her. And like I was driving the car.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's like for the longest time, everyone was very impressed with that story. Her name was Ruthie. But so, and I would cast television. I would cast these shows too.
You knew what you were looking for.
Yeah.
What were you looking for? Like, what are they looking for?
I mean, every show
entertaining.
Is different. Every show is different, of course. It all boils down to entertaining. But like Survivor, they really want someone. It's like so competitive.
Yeah.
Also so fascinating, like in their being entertained, but also inherently so competitive. It's almost an illness.
Do anything, do whatever it takes to win. Yeah.
So, I also I explained this off camera, but I also, even though I was working in reality television, still was kind of getting over the idea that I didn't want to be a screenwriter, and sort of and I could tell that reality television industry was sort of changing, and I felt myself going towards this kind of like transitional period, and like I had started working on art, and I would loved like I started painting a piece. It was like. It's like, boy, that's going to be talk about a tall hill to climb. It's like starting over and becoming an artist seemed like a real hassle.
Sounds like a huge change.
It was like a huge thing.
Hassle.
Well, to go from like I thought that I was so lucky at the time to have found. I'm like, geez, I fell into this reality thing. It was just like it's like the kind of thing. It was like. Just looking for a job. First job I ever had was like working for Baywatch, and then the second job I had was like working on The Real World, and then next thing I know, I'm like just in this world of reality television, and these flukes would happen. These just real lucky thing. I worked on a Britney Spears video, and she didn't like the woman that was the director, and so I would receive like a battlefield promotion like on set that day. You're the director. She wants to talk to you
for a Britney video.
Yeah.
What video did you do?
The video was called Lucky. I directed a show on MTV called Making the Video. It's a great show. Okay. They would do like a documentary about a new music video every week.
Oh, cool.
And I got all these weird promotions, and like the shows that I cast turned out to, like one of them was called Joe Millionaire.
I remember that show.
Right?
I do remember.
It was a big show, huge show, and it had like a twist. It was The Bachelor.
The twist at the end of Joe Millionaire, all of the women were told, "Hey, this guy is a millionaire. You're going to be the one he picks as the wife, and you'll live happily ever after." But then at the end, they're like, "Oh, by the way, he's really a construction worker, and he makes $18,000 a year. He's not a millionaire."
Yes.
Right? That was the show. I remember that show.
Yeah, and so because like, and that show was like such a massive success at the time.
Was it?
It was like it was the highest rated show like ever at the moment.
There was something I remember that.
It was
show.
incredible. And then there was a follow-up show that tanked,
What was the follow-up?
like Joe Millionaire 2.
Yeah.
And then there's another kind of follow-up idea called My Big Fat Obnoxious Fiance, where this guy had to trick everyone in his whole world that he was getting married to this this girl had to trick everyone that she was getting married to this terrible, just oaf of a terrible guy. And so it was all a big joke on all of her family and friends. So I got into this this casting thing, reality where I would cast like trick shows.
I see.
And I could just feel, this has been a great ride, but I feel I have to dive into this art thing to like start over. I think the only way to do it is to just kind of, and so this moment, the big change in my life moment, happened during this kind of transitional time.
Okay.
So I was working on the show Survivor, and I had already kind of started to move away from reality television, but I hadn't really done it aggressively enough. And I'd worked in the past. One of my favorite jobs I've ever had was working on Survivor. Just I can't say enough about how like unique of an experience it is. How weird it's like the bonding of when you're out there like with a crew like far away, like literally in the middle of nowhere. Normally, it's like the best kind of team spirit thing ever.
You really liked working for that show.
Loved it.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want to work on it. Didn't want to spend a whole. In no way did I want to continue.
You're ready for a change.
Yeah. So I'd actually left that show for a while, but one day someone called me out of the blue, and they were like, "Look, we just let this one cast member go, or not cast member. We let this crew. We let this guy go. His only job was to watch these contestants, and it didn't go well. And I guess I should say what I mean when he said watch these contestants. There's a period where on these shows where anyone that is kicked out early or kind of until the show ends, they're hidden in another country.
Sequestered.
That's exactly right. So the idea is they don't want everyone to return at different times.
Right.
So one of the sweetest gigs you can get, the easiest, cushiest, sweetest gig, is to be in charge of sequestering on Survivor.
Yeah.
You just you literally go to some other resort. You just kind of watch, to make sure that you kind of watch for one cast member to kind of go crazy. Call the therapist in, just make sure everything's kind of smooth. But that's one thing that happens. They're all so competitive. The idea that they would not win never occurred to them.
That they're in the loser bracket.
So some of them, if they have kind of the wrong attitude, they'll be sitting out there in their sequestering period, and instead of being excited about what a great experience, they just boil and steam, and you have to look out for that. It's kind of like the gig.
It's like Suicide Watch.
In a weird way, yeah. Obviously, this I don't want to be on. This is the only thing I will probably not want to be on the show. One dude later committed suicide. It wasn't because of the show, but I was like watching him. I'm like, this guy just will not stop. I'm like, he just won't settle down. I could just tell I couldn't keep him happy. He's like a good guy, but couldn't keep him happy. And that just was reminded of that. So a couple of years later, killed himself. And I'm like, geez. Okay, so anyway, back to this. So
do you want us to cut that? Is that what you meant?
Oh yeah. That's the only thing. Just like that, I wouldn't want that mentioned. If you could just cut that. That's all.
Cut the suicide.
He was giving me a nod like he got it.
He killed himself because of the show.
Well, I don't think it hurt. Like I don't think it
help.
Yeah, it didn't help exactly. That's what.
All right, so we'll cut that. Okay, so all right, back at it.
So my wife. I mean, I guess that's kind of giving away the. One woman that was
that part too.
one of the contestants was like this beautiful blonde girl
of Survivor when you're watching the sequestered people.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So my job is to watch the sequestered people. That's the job I was. I'll make sure I got this set up. I was called out of the blue, and offered the sweetest gig of all to go just take care of the sequestered people in Africa.
You're like, this is great. Great
This is
location. You're
I
not doing
can't
much,
wait.
but keeping an eye on them. You're excited about this
I cannot
gig.
wait.
Okay.
So, and I also have had throughout my life this on and off kind of struggle with alcohol. Really difficult. And I have all I have these flare-ups once every couple years. I have to do something kind of dramatic and stop drinking for a while, and it's like that on off was becoming more just mainly on. So when I was called and asked to go work on Survivor, I'd sort of kind of picked it up again, and then also with because it was such a last minute thing. I didn't take this job as seriously as I would have if I was had kind of started from the beginning. And
okay.
So instead, what I thought of was I was like, man, I was like, I'm just gonna go and party. I cannot wait. So I go out there, and this whole experience happened in the smallest country in the whole world. It's called Sao Tome. It's this tiny country off the west coast of Africa.
I've never heard of it.
Nobody has. And they speak Portuguese, and so I arrived in Africa, and the first thing that I had to do was to collect. By this point, the group I think there were maybe eight people that had been kicked out by this point. Quick, take these 8 people to Sao Tome, Africa, and hide them from the world.
It's a good place to hide them.
It was a good place.
I wouldn't go looking there.
We want you, and it's this special resort. So I
How
get
long
there.
are they there? A week or two? A month?
Like a month.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long time. And some had already been at this other resort for a while.
I mean, not a terrible gig if
It's
you
the
can
best
get
gig.
over being kicked out
It's
or
the best
not
gig.
winning, but
It's the best gig.
I guess if it's that kind of person, maybe it's a little torturous.
I think that if you end up being selected for Survivor or any of these really high level kind of competitive shows, it is, if you lose at anything, it's painful.
Yeah.
It's not they're that competitive. So it's
I was on The Bachelorette.
You were?
And I know the pain of. It's funny you said you're that you sequester them, and I was
know what I'm talking about.
I know because I was not sequestered, and so when I went, I never got a rose. I went home the first night.
What?
So we're talking about you. I'm not talking about this very much. Everybody knows that. I hide that story. So anyway, when I went back and I showed up working at the hospital again, they all went, "What are you doing here?" And then I just looked at the floor like this, and they're like, "Oh, you got kicked out." I couldn't say anything, and so I had to. Everybody knew, but I couldn't say anything for 2 months while I was still there, and the show was filming for 10 weeks. So I get it. They didn't care with me, but they'll do that at the end of the battle.
But they kept a bunch of them later.
Well, they don't keep them. I think they just put them on house arrest, and they're like, "Don't go out." I don't know how they do it. I don't know. I didn't go that far.
Like I know, at one point they.
I think if you're top 4 for sure.
They keep them to a point. They wait to a point where then they just won't release them at the same. It's not. I thought it was maybe even top 10 or something like that. Wait, okay. But okay, back to.
So you're going to this. I don't even remember the name of this.
Sao Tome.
Sao Tome. You're going, and you're set up to go there and take care of these people. Okay, great. You're there. Let's do it.
So I'm there. Immediately, one of the first impressions that I had or that the dudes there, it was kind of like sharks circling. There was really just one single girl there. And there were a few girls, but there was just one that was clearly single, and she's a beautiful blonde. Her name was Jackie, and the other dudes were. They would just openly talk. One of us is going to try to hook up with her. We're all kind of competing again, and
I feel like this is a side reality show you could have continued.
There could have been 100 side reality shows. And this one thing, it was such a fascinating group, such a great group, but competitive. That's relevant. So I fall in love with this girl immediately.
Jackie.
I remember I've been on flight after flight just to get to this place, and I feel like when I met her, I had like rolled in with just exactly the amount of like red wine that I would want in my system at the time, like where like things were maybe, and I felt like it was, I just like within only a day, I felt like I wanted to be like, hey, I gotta tell you something. I love you. like to do the opposite thing that you would ever want to do. Like, yeah.
Put it out there.
Never.
Speak your heart.
Oh my God. Talk about if anyone ever has the advice, should I tell this person I love him? Like, no. Wait as long as you can. Hold that power as long as you can. So, I fall like head over heels for Jackie, but what I forgot about was that like the other guys there are geniuses at like playing games, and if they feel like they're being fucked with, they're gonna like handle it. So with it immediately, like, you know, I was kind of developing this relationship with my wife, and I thought we were so sneaky. And I even had like a bird call that I'd be like, go on! And that meant like leave your little hut and come find me, like find the bird call and like make an excuse where you're gonna leave for a while and then we'll go like hook up.
So you're being you're kind of seeing her and being kind of secretive about it.
It was so exciting. Yeah, and then even from her perspective, we talk about it now, she's like, there was nothing more fun than all of that like being secretive, kind of getting together. She's like, I love that time. I would slip her like notes. We would be at a big...
Did these guys know, or were you...
They didn't know something. They didn't know specifically what was going on, but they could tell that something had changed in the water. And like they were looking at each other, and they're geniuses at playing games, so they could just immediately...
But they didn't know it was you, as far as you know.
Well, eventually, one of them figured it out. And like
a couple weeks or how?
No, I feel like maybe like within 10 days, like I got a call from production. And they're like, hey dude, were you like having sex in these bushes? And I was like, nope, it wasn't in bushes. And I was like, and because of that, I'm innocent. Like, and I sort of took on the, like, this is embarrassing because, like, no, I mean, I think that this is a character flaw, quite frankly, that it demonstrates something. But I will tell you, like, because they had one detail wrong of a location, it occurred to me, I'm like, whoa, what is happening?
You can deny.
These guys, they just called in. They just made like a fake call. They don't know anything's happening. Like I know exactly.
Are you the only person of production down there?
There's this other girl that was working with me.
So there's two of you. It's not like there's 5 people watching.
There was one other girl. She just kind of kept to herself mostly, and she had no idea that this was happening. She was getting concerned that I was drinking a lot, but she had no idea that this happened. And so they get a call all the way from production, and I have worked with the people that like the call is ultimately coming from. Like Mark Burnett, I think he's the best, and even like this on down. So it was like an emotional call. Like I felt like but I knew that I'm like, I hated that I was receiving the call, and I knew at the time, like, there's no changing anyone's mind. Like this, whatever information they've received, they wouldn't have called. This is the last thing they want to deal with.
You're on the hot seat.
Hot seat.
It's a little bit out. Okay.
But I didn't accept that I should be in the hot seat because I knew that I'd been like set up by one of these guys which applause to them. Like, of course, if you like...
So you're playing the game, and you had won for a while. They struck back. Okay.
Struck back, but got me out. Like,
oh, you were removed.
So yeah, the call that I received was like, listen, we only have like a couple of rules around here. This is our rule number 1. Don't hook up with the contestants. You got to go home. So in that moment, I'm like, yeah, I've really kind of been just trying to decide what to do with if I'm going to go into art. I'm like, this is definitely a sign. I'm like, I'm going to be blackballed. I'm like, it was a serious thing where I'm like, oh, geez.
I see.
And I'd kind of been, I sort of
Because if they can't trust you in that, then
Yeah,
you may not
exactly.
get other work afterwards.
For sure. So I feel I had like a moment in my head where it was like, this you could go home quietly, or just maybe if all of your decisions are just run through this filter of like go big, like you might go home with a better story than like I think that you want than to quietly be like,
Oh, I can't wait
this
to
happened.
hear how this
So,
ends.
like at the time, I was like, I'm going to behave. I feel kind of innocent, even though I did develop this relationship.
Yeah.
I get this call from production, and I just sort of knew something. They go, "Hey, listen, we're getting reports. Maybe you were seeing with this girl in these bushes. A couple people saw it, and as soon as they said bushes, I'm like, I was never in bushes. What? Yeah, damn it. And they're like, well, you know the deal. You got to go home. So Sao Tome is a small enough country where they don't have regular flights. They don't have. So I had to wait maybe not 2 days, but like 1.5 days until I was even able to like get a flight to
next
go anywhere.
flight out.
You had to get
Yeah.
out. So I was like, it just had like this really dramatic moment. I mean, I don't know why. So I feel it's so emotional because I was like in love, and then that was gonna be taken away, and I literally just like, you know what? In my head, I was like, just do the craziest, just begin doing the craziest possible things that you like. Who knows how this is gonna end, but don't do anything quietly.
Don't go quietly.
So I'm like, all right, first thing, I do have to get out of this hotel that they've put me in, and then they send me to this other hotel. There's like only maybe one or two tiny hotels in this country. So it goes, I leave. I have to like tell everyone, or not everyone, just my partner, hey, you may have got this call before I did, but I'm out of here, and I have to go to this other place. And then I saw Jackie, and I was able to just quickly tell her, I've been caught. So I'm out of here. She's like, what? She's sort of looking like, oh, I can't believe it. So keep in mind, so all the contestants, and I'm friend, it's like even the ones that told on me, I'm still kind of friends with them. We're having a great time together. So they all were. It really caused like a stir, like for those contestants to be thrown in. I mean, that's like a dramatic thing. Oh gosh. So they all kind of need extra hand holding, and there's really only one person left to sort of do that for next day and a half.
Yeah.
And so I leave. I go to this other hotel, and I sort of like steam for maybe like 20 minutes. And then I'm like, well, I'm kind of done steaming. Maybe I'll drink all the vodka in this place. I'm like, I could do some. So I go in, they have a little restaurant, and I start drinking like just straight vodka. And I'm like thinking, I don't really want to go through the process of purchasing it every time. So I feel like if I just tell them, like, I'm going to put these bottles on my room, that'll work out. And then I maybe got even more impatient. And I thought, I don't even want to wait for that. I'm just going to leave a message. And so I go back to my room, and I thought, what if someone comes back and they want these bottles back? That's going to be a problem. So then I put all of the bottles in this backpack, and I decide, you know what? I don't even want to go home. I don't want to ever explain the story to anyone. I don't want to go home. And I'm like, and I can feel something in my head, it's there's things that you do where you're like, yeah, this is kind of a no turning back moment. And I'm like, no, I know, I'm aware of that, and I'm going to keep going in this direction. And I just was like, so I put all this like alcohol in my backpack, and I look at like my bag of like clothes, and I'm like, instead of going home, I'm going to go hide in like the jungle, and I'm just going to like kind of disappear for a while. That's my plan. And then everyone certainly will be sorry about this misunderstanding, because I'm going to be missing for a while, and it's going to cause like an international incident. And, and I'm like, I guess in this one moment was like, when life can change in an instant? This really was like this moment of like lean into this or don't, I feel like changed everything for me. So I leave, I go and I leave this hotel and I'm just like on my own. I'm kind of wondering, and I thought, well, I mean, I've been working on a survival show, but surviving is pretty tough. How am I going to do this? I'm like, well, at the very least, I'm like, the climate's just kind of nice here. I'll just like sleep outside for a couple of days and see how that feels. And I'm making my way to let's call it the edge of the jungle.
Okay.
And on the way, I kind of run into a group of kids, and I have an iPod with me. And I thought, I wonder if they feel the same about the song Jane Says that I do. Like, do they love it out here? So like I put an earbud in one of their ears, and
this is a native child.
yeah, native kid.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just like thumbs up or thumbs down. And the kid's like mind blown, like thumbs up. I'm like, oh great. And I play another song for him. He's like, thumbs down. Like, I could play this game for the rest of my life. This is the best thing to do. And turns out this is one of life's greatest pleasures. And like it kind of gather like a few extra kids around me. Then all of a sudden some guy, and of course I should explain that they only speak Portuguese in this country.
Okay.
I speak a little Spanish, which is nothing. It's like, that doesn't help. Turns out that doesn't really help. So it's like a full-on language barrier. And everything I feel that works in any other place that like I've ever traveled, like hand gestures, everything, it just is not working in this country. And
your American Sign Language is not getting you.
Yeah, like I feel like I could talk someone through like landing a plane with like my limited Spanish, if they could see what I was doing. Like I could get there, I could communicate, and I couldn't with Portuguese. Just I couldn't. But one guy, kind of let's just say like I think it's like maybe like 18, 19-year-old, just African dude, grabs me by the back of like the shoulder and goes, "Hey, I need to help you. These kids, it's clear you don't understand what's happening around you. These kids are about to jump you." I'm like, these kids are terrific. He's like, they're about to jump you. They're about to take what you're showing them. Come with me. So I'm like, you, my friend, are a terrific guy. I'm so excited to be around. Thank goodness. And like, shortly after I ran into him, I even see Jackie. Jackie has escaped her like sequestering. She has caused like another huge incident for the production by escaping to come look for me.
She also escaped.
And she found me, and like, she was so excited to see me, but it was like maybe 15 seconds after that that all of a sudden it occurred to her that she also was creating a kind of a great, huge dilemma for everyone. That was like, I think that she had like a similar experience where she was like, this was kind of a serious moment. Should I lean into this or lean out of it? And I think because she was like a kind of sane at the time, she's like, I don't think I want to cause like an international incident. I'm really excited that you're okay. So we sort of like had like kind of like a romantic moment together, and I told her what I was planning to do. And I even sort of got off the grid for a moment. Like there were these like apartment buildings, and I thought, people are going to be searching for us. Like I think that within only a few minutes, the production is going to call this country and say, find these people, which they had done. And it was a small enough country. It's like, it was the kind of thing where you could say, find a few white people. Like it
wouldn't take you long.
Yeah, wouldn't take you long. Like, got it, no problem. So we have this like an emotional send off. Like we even like kind of duck into some random woman's apartment for a second. Hey, how are you? Like, I don't want to give you the idea that I was able to communicate anything to this woman, but we just somehow walked in this woman's apartment, and we had like this like goodbye, and I thought, my gosh, this woman cannot speak a language, like a word of English, and I can't speak Portuguese, and she's so excited to see two lovers that she was nice enough to hide us for a few minutes. Like, what a great world. Well, that woman was terrified and ended up probably helping track me down, like maybe it's called someone. And I felt
calling the police for
because eventually I was
breaking
tracked
and
down.
entering.
So anyway, I tell my wife, I'm like, or I say, I tell Jackie, would you like to come with me into this jungle, which I have no idea what I'm going to do, or maybe it's a better idea for you just to go back, and then we'll connect, like when I eventually get home.
See you later.
So she was like, that's a good plan. And my translator, he came with me though. So the two of us go into this jungle.
So you say goodbye to her, and you go back to the jungle, and
she goes back, and like when she arrived back at her sequestered area, it was like she had caused a shit show. Yeah. They had sent out by this time kind of like a mercenary to come find me. Unlike his own, like how can we get a plane out right away? Let's just charter this like 24 passenger jet. That's the smallest thing they could find. Send him with his mercenary and like someone to replace me or someone to help out at the sequestering, whole thing. I could feel
a huge liability.
Of course. I mean, like talk about like you would never want to have just someone kind of go nuts that worked for you and then go missing. It would be a huge problem. Terrible thing. So of course, and I think even though I had made this mistake, I like to think that they were like, good old Tyler, let's find that guy. Let's find that guy. He's clearly upset.
Hunt him down.
So I take this translator and we go into this kind of jungle for a while, and I couldn't say how long. I feel it's like probably like a day of hiding. Long time. Like it's a long time to just kind of, like if you think of just being without your phone now for a day, like that's terrible. Like, so it's like talking about like nothing to do. So I'm just with this guy, running out of alcohol. I'm like, let's at least go get some more alcohol, dude. And I'm kind of developed this, what I thought was like a terrific friendship with this guy from some other country. That's why he seemed to know every language. Seemed to be really excited. That I was like, I paid him some money. He seemed to be really grateful. There was even a point where we were able, I think I stole like some food from the old hotel. Like I knew where you could just order some food, kind of snuck back in, order the food, snuck out. And I remember gave the guy like part of my tuna fish sandwich. And he was the most grateful. It was as if I'd like showed him a magic trick or something. I've never seen anyone so excited about it.
Made his year.
Yeah, it's just like the most delicious thing I've ever had. So we kind of like disappeared long enough, I think, to be like a dramatic amount of time. Like I'm sure someone was like, what could be happening? I haven't heard from him for a while. Where on earth could he be staying? I think my credit card even was at like the 2 hotels ago. So it was like, how is he even getting around? Well, I'm like surfaced long enough. Like I get out of this jungle and kind of like looking for another place to find alcohol, and I could kind of feel like it's so weird. I'm like, I can almost feel like stuff kind of closing in. Like I felt like I was a fugitive.
The end is near.
Exactly. And sure enough, I go look around, and it's kind of like cop-ish van like coming towards me. And then I made
the SWAT team van.
Yeah, I made like contact with the guy, and then I could tell like that those are this.
It's like he looks at the picture and then he looks over. That's the guy.
Exactly like that. And so I took my translator. I'm like, dude, this is the only thing you're hired to do. Like, fix this problem. Like, explain to them that I haven't done anything wrong. So like, they can't take me anywhere. Like, I'm going to continue hiding for a while. So you need to make sure. And he's like pushing against me. He doesn't want to explain anything. I'm like, this is the only thing so we get into kind of like a scuffle in front of this van. And so finally the guys get out of the van. They're on us, and they're kind of aggressive about it. And I'm like, I'm sort of expecting to be treated like as if a hero just got confused or something. And it was more like that I was like a threat. And then they grabbed the guy that I was with, and they were really looking at him. They were really upset, and there was like some arguing. It was loud, and it was like kind of scary. And so they take me, and I thought they were going to take me to a hotel or something like that. They didn't. They took me to a jail. Like there's like a jail in Africa.
Lock this guy up.
Yeah. So I'm like, and I'm asking the guy, I'm like, what? You got to explain to me why is this happening? Like, why are you not asking them 1,000 questions? And I'm like telling the guy, and he just like won't relay what I'm doing anymore. And I'm like, still kind of drunk enough where I'm telling the authorities, I'm like, talk to that guy. And everyone's getting more and more serious. And so there's even a moment where finally we go to this jail, and like that guy's in his cell and I'm in my cell. I'm like, what is going on? Like, when is somebody going to explain like what's going on? Finally, I'm like brought up, and I feel it's like brought upstairs. Like there's an upstairs. So I go to an upstairs, and I'm like thinking like things are going to be cleared up immediately. And it's just two guys being like, what they're asking me over and over, why are you with that guy? Like, why are you with that guy?
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, that guy is hiding me. Like, he's hiding me.
This doesn't sound good.
From the world. And like, doesn't make sense. Like, you're an idiot. And so finally I go, like, they put me back downstairs, and they still seem really unhappy. And then maybe 30 more minutes pass by, and all of a sudden, like, the mercenary that they had sent, he like shows up. I'm like, thank God the cavalry is here. And he couldn't have been cool. This guy was like, by that time, but so I like sobered up, and I was like, geez, I think I caused like a lot of trouble for people. That was maybe a mistake. And when I saw the guy, I was like, hey man, I am very sorry. I'm like, if you're here with the production and you've been personally put out, I'd like to apologize. And that's just the first apology of many. And he was like, dude, stop right there. Are you cool? Are you okay? I'm like, yes, I'm okay now. I'm okay. But I got like emotional about stuff. He's like, okay, great. Why are you with that guy? And it turns out that the guy that I had hired to hide me in this jungle to be my translator was wanted for like kidnapping. Like was
somebody else.
Yeah, was like they were like, that guy's, they've been looking for that guy. He's from like Cameroon. Like it's like
he was a bad
There was
guy.
like a whole, I mean like, I still like to think that there was like maybe a misunderstanding about that guy that was cleared up some day later. But that was, in that moment, that was the concern. You're with someone that's like wanted for trafficking.
Oh, that he was gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
Wow.
and I was doing things like, listen, you're really hanging out with the right guy. I'm kind of a big cheese back home. Like it would be like anything that like if you were a kidnapper, like, I can't believe this thing fell in my lap. And it's like, I think he just told me that
if you were a kidnapper,
yeah,
this is the easiest kidnapping ever. This guy's, hi, I want to hide out in the jungle. Perfect, let's go.
Exactly, yeah, perfect. So I'm like, eventually I've kind of like, I'm like received some clarity. I feel like I'm Pulp Fiction. They call it like a moment of clarity. Do you remember that line?
Mm.
It's a terrific line. I said this like moment of clarity, and I was like, man, what a huge. It was like I just was aware that it caused like a lot of stir, but I ended up I married that girl. Like I feel like Jackie ended up like we're married now.
So wait a minute. So the mercenary finds you. Oh, you're okay. You're safe now. You didn't know this was a bad dude, a kidnapper. You're okay. And then what? He took you home to the U.S.?
Yeah, it was one of those things where he like took me straight to the airport. like straight to the plane.
Straight to the plane.
Yeah.
Secured your exit. You went home.
Yeah, they're like.
Was that the end
I
of
think
your?
I was told not to come back to the country. But it was kind of thing where it's
Shocker.
like the highest authority, like kind of like talk to me personally, like in the country, kind of like
One
checking
way-
on
it's
things.
one way to get the
last thing.
president's
Yeah, get the guy
attention.
in the plane. The next thing I know, I'm just on this plane, like just kind of like this awesome. I feel like I say mercy. It's just like Survivor has like they had a bunch of badass dudes on there, just
Like
as
a
like
private investigator. kind
like
of
on
thing.
just like on staff. They just had these amazing people with incredible backgrounds on security.
So you go back to the U.S. and was this like the end of your reality TV career in production? Is that what you were suggesting?
Yeah, so this was like, this was the last television show that I worked on in that capacity. I ended up I still ran casting for this company called Rocket Science.
Did this whole thing like burn a bridge?
Burn a bridge with Survivor. I 100% at Burn a Bridge. 100%. Like
Were you blacklisted a little bit?
Yeah, would
A little-
never- I
labeled
could-
a little maybe unstable kind
Yeah,
of thing.
like I feel like I don't want to sugarcoat that. 100%. But there are a lot of networks and like there were other companies, and I still had like kind of a development gig at one company. But it was like when I got back, it was the kind of thing that I was so excited to have this really dramatic, like big, crazy story that would push me and kind of force me into like from one career and go into another.
That's what I was wondering. So would that kind of helped you? Is this part of you was like self-sabotaging
Yeah.
your reality
100
TV career to get you away from it?
100%.
That's what you were doing.
100%. I feel like for me, I think I'd sort of like, I don't think that I think that I was as happy as I was ever going to be in that at the moment in that industry, and I feel like things would have changed, and I'm not sure that I would have enjoyed the changes as they happen.
You didn't want that
so,
future.
Yeah, I didn't want exactly, and it's like, and I still think that I will end up maybe working in like documentaries, and I'd work on a documentary right now, like, but it's different than being like, I didn't want that.
This helps
as,
you
like,
get
a
out
life.
of reality TV.
Yeah. I think for any
Did
artist,
you-
you also kind of need something. It's like if you want to go, like if you all of a sudden want to be gay and like no one knew that you were gay before, you need like I think the plan is to like come out, like maybe have a coming out party,
Yeah.
like let everyone know.
Point of no return.
Yeah, like hey everyone,
big
stop
kind of
setting me
thing.
up with girls because I like guys. Like it's like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like as an artist, you need something as dramatic. You have to like. If you go for, unless you've been doing it like as a kid or something, everyone kind of knows you as an artist.
So when you got back, did you more pursue art?
Yeah, I had.
How did you get into that? And
Sure. So I should also
the other
say,
question is, what happened with the girl? You can't just cut to the story. You got married or what?
So the moment that I had this kind of download with Survivor. Finally, there was sort of figured out what had happened. Went home. And what I didn't know is that they had called my parents, and my parents were waiting at the airport for me. Like my parents were waiting for me at the airport.
Where did you fly home to? Oklahoma?
Yeah, I was thinking
LA.
no to LA. My parents had come from
Okay, your parents
from
were
Oklahoma to LA,
in LA.
where they were waiting for me, and they were. It was like, it was so surreal to have. I'm like, got off the plane. I'm like, what a dramatic trip that was, and then I just saw my parents. They had the biggest smile on their faces
'Cause you're not dead.
Hey, and I'm like, oh my god, and there was still probably like some idea in my head. I'm like, probably I could probably like sweep this under the rug still. There was no chance. So my parents were waiting at the airport to take me to a rehab. So I had to go and then confront this other huge problem after all this like traumatic stuff, even with this like idea of like transitioning from one career to another. Like, well, I guess it's also a time to deal with this like alcohol issue. This is going to be difficult. But the moment I saw my parents there, I was just like, I kind of knew where it might be going. And instead of resisting it anyway, I was just like, let's go. I can't wait to go. I am so excited to go to rehab. Let's take care of this problem once and for all. And we went. They found a place in like San Clemente. We were there within like 2 hours.
You get back. You go straight to rehab.
Yeah.
For alcohol.
Straight to rehab in San Clemente, which is like one of the most beautiful parts of California. I gotta say, if you've never been to San Clemente, boy, you're missing out. And to go to rehab there is pretty terrific. I wish I could say it's the last time I went to rehab. It's the second to last time. Like 10 years later, had another little flare up and went to Betty Ford in the desert, which is also fantastic. But it was a big deal I went a long time without any kind of like problem. Really long time.
So you had a big chunk of sobriety under your belt.
Yeah. But I think that it's like, so it's like by the only way that I was like going to sort of get to a point where I really had to make some changes to like get to that place was like to have this like huge dramatic thing happen.
So the significance for you of this moment was, you kind of did this big dramatic thing that half burned a bridge in reality TV that you didn't want to do anyway, and it landed you back in rehab, which it sounds like you're saying you really needed.
Yeah.
So when
I got out of rehab, and I had like a kind of a clean slate with all of that, I had like I had like a gig at a television company. I kind of let that, like I didn't pursue that. Like and
how did you get into art, and when did you see the girl? Those are the two things.
So sure. So I've been trying to, like, I'd obviously been painting for a long time, but I feel like the moment that I returned from Africa, I feel like I had this attitude that the net was like no longer there.
The safety net?
Yeah, like a safety net of like working in television, and I was just
like it forced you out, like it made you. I see.
So there was like the next thing I know is like kind of I felt myself almost scrambling to make something work out with art, and I had this buddy that was kind of like just like an entrepreneur. That was sort of acting as like an agent, and within like a couple of weeks, he like nailed this like $90,000 gig for the city of Burbank, like to do a painting based on a painting that I had made. Like things just started working out instantly. Like it was like magic.
Wow.
The moment that I felt like there was no more
for you to paint and to make money as an artist.
So, and it was like,
interesting.
It was the type of thing that, like in my head, it was so weird. Like for a while, I wanted, like when I was painting, but still working in reality television, people would go, "What do you do?" And I so badly wanted to go, "I'm an artist," but I would be like, "I'm an artist, but I'm like just getting started with that." But I also cast these shows, and I felt like it was like one thing that bothered me is that I was having these long conversations to a very simple question. So all of a sudden, like once I got back, like I would say I'm an artist, and it was like the greatest feeling ever. Like to just be kind of clear about it.
Who you really were, and you finally came to terms with that.
And so it was a really short period of time. Like there were like 3 kind of like great gigs that got like right off the bat, and then more importantly, the girl that I kind of like all this happened. Jackie came to visit me while I was in rehab.
Oh.
She came to visit me in rehab, and when I got out, I was like, I'm gonna make this work, and like courted her, and I had to like really kind of court her probably twice as hard as I would have normally, because she sort of is aware that I was able to go crazy, and that was like a turn on for a minute, and then it become like a turn off when she really thought about it. Yeah, exactly.
This was fun, but
so I had to get through this like red flag period. Deal with any like I had to like put on like the full court press, but worked. And we got married like, ended up being 2 years later we got married. Proposed within a year, and then we got married a year
Happily
later.
ever after.
Yeah. So, I mean, so I feel like if I would have just gone back quietly, I wouldn't have made any of these like huge changes in my life.
You wouldn't have had the
Nothing.
event that precipitated going to rehab. You wouldn't have married Jackie.
Right.
If you would have gone back, you don't think you would have connected with her? Certainly the story would have been
She lived in
different.
Santa Barbara. The story would have been different. Maybe like the stars would like, maybe there's like, you know, things are supposed to happen. Maybe they would have still happened.
Who knows?
But I don't think so. I feel
What
like.
was it about you doing the dramatic thing that you think helped bring you together in the end?
So there was like another benefit of doing something like as kind of like as big of that and then meeting someone is that I thought, this is a really good story. I really am going to do like extra to make this work out. Like it provided an extra incentive.
I see. You wouldn't have worked as hard if you didn't have to make it up.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case.
I see.
Like there were like even when we were together, like you know, she lived in Santa Barbara and I lived here, and so in no way is that a long distance relationship, but it's long enough.
Yeah.
And I remember like several, and you know, I remember being in an argument about several times. I'm like, don't throw in the towel. I'm like, this is just too great of a story. So
It's like you were invested.
yeah, I was like invested. That's exactly how I put it. I felt like I was invested.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm super happy it worked out. I'm like, I mean, that's such an understatement.
How long have you guys been together? 15 years? How long ago was this?
Guys, so it was 2008 when this show happened.
12 years.
Yeah, we got married in 2010.
Wow. That's the moment. Now I understand the significance of this moment for you.
Yeah, so that's the moment. I feel like it was really on this call when I received kind of like, hey, dude, you've been caught, and then with the wrong information, that I was like, go big, or you can just quietly kind of like put this to rest, or you can go big with all of your decisions. And this one moment, I'm like, I'm so grateful I went big with all these decisions. Like I'm happy that it was as dramatic as it was, and it's never fun to like let people down, and there was that, and I had to like
But
get
it all
through
worked
that.
out.
Yeah, it was all worked out.
Way. He just candid, by the way.
He just what?
You summarized the whole thing perfectly
Oh, yeah.
in a 1 minute thing that we'll put at the beginning of the show. So I'm taking a step back and I'm trying to like draw bigger conclusions from this. Like, what did you learn? Go like live your life in a way that's go big, or like what's the?
So that's a good question. I think that there's something really important about like listening to your instincts and not. It's like I don't know that I've never had like the clearest voice about saying do this, don't do this, don't do that. And sometimes it's like I think like anyone else, kind of feel like you just kind of feel it out. But there have been only a few times in my life where that voice has been like kind of loud, and I think that in those moments, like lean into it.
Listen to the voice.
Listen to the voice, yeah. Like
Lean into the
if you're really feeling like a powerful push in a direction, like I think, like, I would never want to sit through everyone's personal stories and be like, yeah, and confirm this. But I feel like the best advice is like lean into it, just go with it, like just like stop wasting time, just go with it. Like, oh, it could be all these repercussions, like, and just still go with it. I have this
an argument for impulsivity and how it's
totally
worked out.
I think
or an argument to like listening to your authentic, deeper inner voice and truth and trusting it.
I mean, I know that it could go really far south in some areas, but
it's like, but you know what I mean? Like I'm like,
yeah, no, totally.
Because what you did, it sounds like, was that in the middle of a context of a period where you weren't sober and you were but now you could be like, God, that was a bad decision.
Yes.
But it worked out, and it's your story that you would never let go of now. And so there's a dual aspect to it, where one is like, God, this was impulsive and in the thrall of an addiction. But then there's also a part to it, I think, that you're saying where it's like, no, there was something to this. There was some inner wisdom that was coming out that was
exactly.
loud, that was like, no, at this time in my life, that actually and it needed to happen and was a good thing.
Yeah.
And maybe it's both.
This buddy of mine, his name is Jay. He was with this like wild girl, and he was kind of an age where it's like, you know, like kind of, you know, the term like locker room stories. Like he had a real kind of a locker room full of people. It's just hanging on every word to the story, and oh no, wait, it's a masseuse, and he's like yeah, I'm with this masseuse, and he's like, you know, the next thing I feel her, she's like sticks her finger in my butt. Everyone's like, well, what'd you do? And he goes, I leaned into it. And everyone's like, oh, it's the greatest. That's the greatest. And so I feel like lean into it is the attitude.
Do you have any closing conclusions for us?
I think that I just said it.
That's it.
Yeah, I feel like if you really feel like, at least for me, anytime I'm like, man, I'm feeling like something's telling me to do this, then do it.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming and telling your story.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hang on. So our tradition on the show.
Yeah.
Is there somewhere people can find you?
Yeah, Instagram @Ramsey Art, and then I have a website, ramseyart.com.
What kind of art do you do? Paintings?
Yeah, I paint, and then I also work with neon, and I install neon lights onto paintings.
Ramsey
Studio.
Ramsey Art. Check him out at Ramsey Art. So our guest looks into that camera, closes out the show. Whatever you want to tell him, and then adios.
This was tons of fun, I gotta say, and I'm excited. I feel like I have confirmed. Lean into it. That's the attitude. Tyler Ramsey, fantastic.
We hope you have enjoyed the show. Take a screenshot and post one of these on social media. Tag Ramsey Art, me, Dr. Larry Burchett. I will respond to those. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts and the YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.
And what I want to make sure we do is line it out to know this is a deeply systemic problem. Yeah. So there was a team of gender studies professors.